you would get to 270 electoral votes. But if all of a sudden we, in fact, have applying the 2025 estimates, the population estimates, to the Electoral College, the blue state.
Wait, stop everything and look at these numbers. CNN just dropped a demographic bomb that basically shows the entire Democratic path to the White House vanishing by 2030. If these population shifts hold, the blue wall isn't just cracking, it's being demolished by the math.
Have applying the 2025 estimates, the population estimates, to the Electoral College, the blue states, plus the blue wall of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin would no longer be enough. Under the current estimates, you get to exactly 270 electoral votes, the minimum needed to win the Electoral College. If, in fact, you apply the 2025 estimates, look at that. You would only get to 263 electoral votes if you were a Democrat, which would mean a Republican victory. Now, of course, we're still a number of years away from reapportionment, right? We take the census come 20.
Did you see that map? This is the ultimate wake-up call because it's not based on opinions or polling. It's based on where people are actually moving their families and their tax dollars. When you see a projection showing the Democrats dropping from a winning 270 electoral votes down to a losing 263 just because of census shifts, you realize why the political panic is reaching a fever pitch. Look at the states losing power. California, New York, Illinois. These are the traditional pillars of the party. Now look where that power is migrating. Texas, Florida, Arizona. We are witnessing a historic geographical realignment of American power in real time. It's wild to see a mainstream outlet like CNN break it down this surgically. They're basically admitting that the current strategy has a fast-approaching expiration date. It makes you wonder if the policy shifts we're seeing right now are actually just a desperate attempt to outrun the inevitable math of the next census.
Lawmakers say that they're concerned this is the next step in an aggressive crackdown on immigration enforcement. According to Maricopa County Recorder documents, ICE purchased the 418,000 square foot warehouse for just over $70 million last week. It's near the intersection of Dysart and Cactus Road. You can see how huge that is. 12 News visited the property last Thursday where there was no sign of activity. On Monday, a spokesperson for the city of Surprise told 12 News they did not know about the federal government's plans. Of course.
Okay, that warehouse in Arizona is absolutely massive. $70 million for a facility the size of 7 football fields? That is a staggering amount of infrastructure being built specifically for detention and deportation. You can see why local leaders are stunned. They didn't even know the federal government was planning something on this scale. The visuals of that building really put the surge into perspective. It's one thing to hear politicians argue about border policy on the news, but it's another thing entirely to see a 418,000 square foot processing center materialize in the desert. This represents a massive shift toward enforcement that we haven't seen in decades. It's clearly a logistical preparation for something much larger. When you pair this physical expansion with those population maps we just looked at, you start to see the two different worlds colliding. The demographic shift away from blue states and the physical crackdown happening on the ground in the red states. The scale here is just unprecedented.
Workers. We have a population that is not reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
Check out the shift in rhetoric here from Chuck Schumer. He starts by talking about dreamers, which has been the standard talking point for years, but then he quickly pivots to wanting a path to citizenship for all 11 million undocumented people. That is a huge jump in scope. It's fascinating to watch this clip in the context of the census data we just saw. If the party is looking at a future where they lose 7 House seats and the Electoral College math stops working in their favor, the push for all 11 million starts to look less like a moral stance and more like a demographic necessity for survival. You can see him doubling down on the reproducing comment too. That's a very specific and controversial way to frame the American population. It feels like he's saying the quiet part out loud about why immigration is now the central pillar of their long-term political strategy. The tone is urgent, almost like they know the clock is ticking toward that 2030 deadline.
2020. According to the latest population estimates that take into account the population mid-2025, look at this. The biggest population growth this decade, all 5 of the states that Donald John Trump won in 2024. Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, and, of course, the great state of Arizona, where I spent my New Year's Eve. I love those folks out in Prescott, Arizona. These were the biggest gainers in terms of population compared to the 2020 census. Now, it's not just a red state boom. This is what we're looking at. We're looking at a red state boom here. But it is not just a red state boom. We're also looking at what I would dare call a blue.
This red state boom versus blue state depression graphic is the smoking gun. Look at the states highlighted in red: Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona. These are the exact places where the population is exploding. Now, think about what they all have in common politically. People are voting with their feet, and they are heading straight for states with lower taxes and different regulatory environments. This isn't just a minor trend. It's a mass migration that is literally redrawing the map of American influence. When a state like California loses net migration for the first time in its history, it sends shockwaves through the entire political establishment. You can see the analyst on screen. He's almost giddy explaining how much of a disaster this is for one side. It's a total reversal of the mid-20th century trends. The blue state depression isn't just a catchy title. It's a reality of lost seats, lost revenue, and a losing hand in the next decade of American politics. The math doesn't lie, folks. Is the blue wall officially done for? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.